when we're doing these questions, we need to recognize the phrase altitude drawn to hypotenuse. That's going to be one way that we're going to recognize what's going on here. And then the other thing we're going to recognize is the diagram. So we have our right triangle that's being cut with this altitude. We're creating three triangles, okay? So we have this triangle on the left here and the triangle on the right. And then we have the original triangle we started with. These triangles, right, we went over this in class, are all going to be similar to one another. So I want to make sure I draw my three triangles up, right? The original, the medium, and a little small guy. And then we can look to see what proportions we can build to solve for our triangles. So we want to make sure we're drawing it like chopped out triangle so it's stretched out towards one of the sides so we can see which of these legs is a long leg versus the small leg. Okay, so let's look at the first question. We are trying to find h here. Now, let's pretend for now that I don't have this a and b. So I'm just going to color them in white so that we're ignoring these. Let me get white. Can we get straight white? There we go. All right, so let's pretend like we don't see this and we don't see this right now. I don't want to get anyone confused here, okay? So in my triangles, there we go. I'm going to draw three of them, and they're going to look just like this one does, okay? So as I'm tracing this one to get my triangle, I'm literally going to take it and just slide it over, all right? There's the first triangle. Maybe we'll make it a little bit smaller just to save a little bit of room, but you get the idea here, okay? So we know at the very top here, okay, that this is T, all right? Off to the right is R, and the left is R, and the right is S. Now I'm going to draw a smaller version of that triangle, all right? The smaller version of that triangle. So we're ignoring A and B. I moved those out of the way when I slid the triangle, all right? So this medium-sized triangle is this one that's over here. So I get the idea that we're picking it up, and then putting it down over here. Remember, the right angle is down here. We'll call this, how about RSTU, or I don't know, we'll call it C. C for why not? Okay, so C is the right angle, and then it's shorter to get to T than it is to get to S. So T is the short leg and S is the long leg. And then I'm going to draw a third triangle that's a little bit smaller still. The right angle is still down at C, and it's shorter to get to R than it is T. So R on this side, T on that side. Okay, one thing to keep in mind is if this is the short leg, CT, in this triangle, it has to be the long leg in the other triangle. It can't be the short leg in both. It doesn't work that way. Okay, now we're going to label everything we know. So in the really big triangle, we have sides of 3 for the short leg, 4 for the long leg, 5 for the hypotenuse. Okay, in the triangle on the left, right, which is the small triangle, the hypotenuse is 3, okay, and the long leg CT is H. And then in the triangle on the right, we have H is the short leg, and 4 is the hypotenuse. And so what we can do is we can solve for this by creating proportions using any of these triangles, okay? Let's start with just the middle one, right? The middle one has sides of H and 4. And although 3 and 4 are in the same spot, there's nothing over here. So I can't use the bottom triangle and the medium-sized triangle. I have to use the larger triangle, which has sides of 3 and 5, which are paired up in the same way. And so now, when I create my proportion, I can say that 3 is going to correspond to H, and that ratio is going to equal the same triangle to start with, 5, and that's going to correspond to 4. And so we can cross multiply here and get 5H is equal to 12. And then when we divide out, we should get 2.4 is H. And if you use the other triangle, right, the one on the bottom, okay, we have sides of 3 and H. And if you notice, now When we look at the big triangle, we have sides of 5 and 4 that are in the same positions. So if I make proportions with these sides, I could say 4 is corresponding to H, right? And then the same triangle would start with 5 is going to correspond to 3. And notice that when we multiply these together, we still get 5H equals 12. So it doesn't matter which triangle you use, you're going to get the same result, okay? All right. If we take a look at number 19, spoiler alert. Oh, up on the board here. Let's get rid of all this. We're going to go through and do it together, okay? Now, once again, we see altitude to the hypotenuse. So we know that we're creating these 3 right triangles. So we're going to draw this chopped out, stretched out triangle for ourselves. And this is A, C is the right angle over to B. We're going to draw a medium-sized version of this, okay, where the right angle is now at D, and it's going to be longer, okay? Now, I don't know. Which one's longer? Well, let's look at the last one if we're not sure, okay? We know that D is still going to be the right angle, okay? And it's definitely shorter to go from D to B, and then it's longer to go from D to C. So if this is the long leg, then this side is the short leg. So it should be DC and then DA. Okay, now we are trying to find the length of BD. So we have to call that X. So what we know is in the medium-sized triangle, the hypotenuse is 6 and the short leg is X. Okay. In the small triangle, well, you know what? We put that in the wrong spot, didn't we? Man, that 6 and X came from the small triangle. That's these guys. That should be down here. Okay? Short leg, hypotenuse. Sorry about that, guys. So let's switch colors here. All right? So we should have the short leg and then the hypotenuse here for ourselves. Okay? So we have X and then 6. Now, in the medium triangle, that's this one, we only have this long leg. That's all we have. We don't have any other information. And then the really big triangle, we have a short leg, and because we have both pieces, together they make the hypotenuse. And that would be X plus 5. And so now, what sides are in the same position? Well, it's 6 and X, and then X plus 5 and 6. And so now I can go ahead and make my proportion. So I can say, well, 6 is corresponding to X. And because the triangles are similar, that X plus 5 has to equal X plus 5 over the other corresponding side, which is 6. And so when I cross multiply, we're going to get 36 is equal to X times X plus 5, which is going to be X squared plus 5X. We are going to get this equal to 0, okay, by moving this 36 to the other side, all right? You get X squared plus 5X, take away 36. We want to look for two things that multiply to negative 36 and give us that add to 5. So if you go through your list, we have 1 and 36. Well, that doesn't give us 5. 2 and 18. That doesn't give us 5. 3 and 12. No, that would be 9, right, or 15. 4 and 9. Ooh, there we go. And so I know that I need a positive, negative 4 and a positive 9 to get 5. So that means we're going to get factors of x minus 4 times x plus 9. And if x minus 4 is a factor, the answer is positive 4. And if x plus 9 is a factor, the answer is going to be negative 9. We're not allowed to accept negative lengths. We don't just reject negatives for no reason, okay? We can't have a negative length. And since we wanted BD and we called BD x, we know that BD is going to equal 4, okay? All right. Going down to the next triangle. In the diagram below, the altitudes are drawn and it intersects the hypotenuse. And since we have our triangle that's being cut, we can draw our 3 triangles for ourselves. Now, this is another opportunity for those of you with colored pens or pencils or highlighters, to go ahead and highlight different side lengths. So for instance, we can highlight these sides all in green, okay? We can highlight these sides all in yellow. And we can highlight the bottom sides in, I don't know, let's get crazy, orange, okay? And when we label things, now I can go look at my fractions and see what is going to be in the same order. So we have A, the right angle at C, and then B. In the medium triangle, the right angle is going to be at D. The short leg is going to go from D to C, long leg D to B. And then in the small triangle, right angle at D, short leg D to A, long leg D to C. Okay, so now, anywhere I see a CA, DC, or AD, we're going to color that green. Actually, you already have orange on. So how about AB, CB, AC? So I see AC. Oh, that's not a highlighter. Get back here. Highlighter. Okay, so we have AC. All right. I'm not going to highlight anything yet. And the reason why is because I have, in this triangle, I've highlighted CB in orange, but I also have a yellow for CB. So these things kind of represent these side lengths can be sides in different triangles. So rather than, let's see if I can do this correctly here. Rather than highlighting all the sides, which is a strategy and can work, okay, if you go through it, let's instead, I don't want to get rid of all the letters. Let's instead just not worry about highlighting for this part, this question, okay? We'll go back and redraw. So, all right, I'll make sure to cut this out so you guys don't worry about this. Okay. Bro. Okay, so if we go back and we look at, try to figure out which of these is always true, we're going to try to want to start putting together which triangles are being used based on these proportions. So if we look at, we know this bottom triangle is going to be D, A, right, D to A, and then C. Okay, so if we look at the first one, we have AD and AC. So AD is going to be this side on the left, and AC looks like it's on the bottom. So is this ratio in the same order? Is it CD over BC? So we have left side over bottom. Is this also left side over bottom, right? And it is. So this actually does work. This is the left over the bottom and the bottom triangle, and this is the left side over the bottom, right? And instead of doing L over B, maybe we can say that this is the short leg over the hypotenuse, right? And this side is the short leg over the hypotenuse. So these work. This works, okay? If you look at number 2, okay, now we're going to look at AD. Well, AD looks like it's on this side. That's the short leg. And CD is the long leg. And so this triangle is short leg over long leg. So is this in the same order? And this is BD, right, over CD. So this is actually long leg over short leg. This is in the wrong spots, right? These are upside down. So this doesn't work. Okay, if we go to the next one, we have AC and CD. So do we have a triangle that has sides AC and CD? Oh, down here, right? This is the hypotenuse, AC. and CD is the long leg. So do we find a triangle that also has CD and BC? We do, it's right here. But CD, right, is the short leg, and BC is the hypotenuse. So this doesn't work because it's using the wrong sides. Do we see it's not in the same order? So what about choice 4? Okay, do we have a triangle that has AD and AC? Well, that's the bottom. AD is the short leg. AC is the hypotenuse. And I need a triangle with AC and BD in it. And I don't even have a triangle. Oh, I don't even have a triangle with AC and BD in it. So this doesn't even work anyways because I'm using AC, which was like from this triangle, and it matches up. So this doesn't work because I don't even have sides in the right triangle there. So you got to be careful which ones we're going to pick. And so we want to look for, do I have, for example, like the short leg over the short leg and the hypotenuse over hypotenuse from two different triangles, or can I make them in the same triangle? All right, number 21. So we have triangle ABC. Once again, we have the altitude drawn to the hypotenuse. So we are going to draw our 3 right triangles. Remember to stretch out one of those sides for ourselves so it's easy to see which one is the short leg, long leg, and hypotenuse. We're going to start with C, B, A. Okay, the medium-sized triangle, the right angle is a D. Short leg goes from D to B. Long leg goes from D to A. And then the same thing, we have D, short leg at C, long leg at B. All right, and so if we label, we have AC is 12, this side is 8. We're trying to find the length of BC, which is this. Because we have 12 and 8, we'll also know that this is 4 by subtracting. And so we can start labeling. In the really big triangle, I have a hypotenuse of 12, and I have a short leg of X. In the medium-sized triangle, I only have a long leg of 8. And in the small triangle, I have a short leg of 4, and the hypotenuse across from the right angle is X. And so now, when I put these together, we should hopefully see that I can use 12. Well, that is hard to see. I can use the 12. All right, well, let's change this to always show. Okay, 12 and X, and that means I'm going to use the ones in the same position so I can use the X and the 4. And so if I make my X over 4 equals 12 over X by going from the big to the small, okay, we can cross multiply and get X squared equals 48. We're going to square root. And remember, on the calculator, we're going to do menu 2, 3. It's going to give us that factor, okay? And then we're going to type in 48, not the square root of 48. And it's going to spit out 2 times 2 times 2, 8, right, times 6, 2 times 3. So it'll literally say 2 to the 4th times 3, okay? Because we're going to rewrite this as this 4 2s and a 3. We're looking for pairs. So we can see we have 2 pairs of 2s. Each set of 2, we're going to pull out 1 2. So there's going to be 2 2s out front, which is 4, and then square root of 3 left over. If you want to check it, you can type each of these in your calculator, and if they're the same decimal, that's how we know that they're going to be equal, and so we know the answer is choice 2. All right, number 22, last one here. So same idea, altitude drawn to the hypotenuse. So if these two sides are 2 and 6, we're trying to find the length of AB. AB is this whole thing. And so if we call this X, this side is going to be X minus 2. Don't know if we need it yet, but that's what it's going to be. So we're going to draw out our 3 triangles for ourselves. Okay. So our right angle's at C, short leg to A, long leg to B. We got our medium-sized triangle, which is over on this side. The right angle is at D. Short leg is DC, long leg DB. And then in our small triangle, right angle at D, short leg go to A, long leg to C. Okay, in the really big triangle, we have the short leg of 6, and the bottom side, this hypotenuse is X. In the median size triangle, we only have x minus 2, which is the DB, it's the long side. And in the small triangle, I have a short leg AD of 2, and then the hypotenuse AC is 6. And so when we look to see what's in the same position, we can see our 4 sides that line up. And now I can cross multiply after I make my proportion. Here, if I want to compare these two sides, I can say 6 over x, and then I have to do the same order and do 2 over 6. Remember, you could do 6 over 2, x over 6, but we're still going to cross multiply together and get 2x equals 36. And when we divide by 2, we'll get x is equal to 18. And there's our answer. And since that's what was AB, we're good to go. And that's it for today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions.